Hey everyone! Today I had the opportunity to speak with Felix Montelara, who is the CEO and founder of AudioDice Network. Just as we were about to begin the interview, Felix thought it would be such a great learning opportunity for us to go live stream on all platforms with AudioDice during the interview.
Just do your thing. Don't worry if you make a mistake. Just don't apologize. Don't say I'm sorry. Just redo it. Don't say, let me redo that. Just do it. Hi, folks. We're doing an interview. Johnny is doing an interview for her project.
What inspired you to start in the media business?
Well, I worked a 9 to 5 with the federal government for many years, and I decided to start doing a podcast. And the reason I did a podcast is because we were doing a Spanish radio show here in Montgomery, Alabama, in a little local AM station that no longer exists. So when the AM station went away back in 13 years ago, when it went away, we were thinking, well, how do we put this information out? And there was this new thing at the time, called podcasting. And we're like, how do we figure this out? How do we put a radio show and convert it into a podcast? So we did that, and I had about 5 years to my retirement when that occurred. And I started thinking, well, I can retire early and do a little bit of this, or I can stay on and never do this. So my passion has been doing radio and media and all that, because when I was a young man, I actually studied to be like a DJ, but for radio. It was one of those things, it's just a separate course that I took and all that. The tone of my voice, I never really got an opportunity to do it. So as an adult, I got a chance to do a live radio show at an AM station in Washington, D.C. And I ended up doing that one show once a week for 10 years.
What's your favorite part about the Latin podcast?
Well, the Latin podcast is a place where we give out awards. And we recognize not only Latino podcasters, but people who do podcasting about Latinos or with Latinos or work in with Latinos. So let's say it's part of the group, there is a Latino working as your team member. They qualify to be recognized. Therefore, your organization gets recognized and Latinos get recognized. And we created something called the Latin Podcast Awards. It's in its 7th year right now. It's actually online right now going. It's alive because there's a time when we're off. But we are live right now, accepting these registrations. And not only we recognize the ones in the United States, but we recognize those in Central, South America, and Spain. So it's a global movement based out of Montgomery, Alabama, which is one of the nicest things, because people are like, where is it? Yes, we're based in Montgomery, Alabama, and we're catering mainly to U.S. Spanish-speaking podcasters because, as we all know, Spanish language is dominant in the United States. And when I say dominant, the Spanish language from the United States is the second largest Spanish-speaking community in the world.
That is amazing. So what's your favorite part about being a CEO?
Well, being a CEO is tough. It's really hard because you wear many hats. And wearing many hats, it gives you the opportunity to screw up a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right? So becoming a CEO to me has been nothing but a learning journey. That's what it is. It's one of those where you don't know it all and you try to do it all, and then you figure out as a CEO, I can't do it all. Let me get help. So you start getting help. You start learning how to delegate, which is another thing. A lot of people, when you have a startup, like it's what we are, it's a startup, it becomes where you want to do everything and you want to have control of everything. And when you get an assistant, you want to micromanage them and you want to, just know everything that's going on. And you have to let go of some of these things and know that you hired the right people to do the right jobs for you.
Mm-hmm. That sounds so great. What are 5 goals that you have for your podcast and all your other associated businesses in the next 5 years?
Well, we have a 5-year plan and we have a 10-year plan. And that's part of the build out that you do when you have a business plan. I'm a business major in college and I studied finances and my master's degree. And I just got to tell you that if you don't plan ahead, even with life, you're not going to reach anything. Albert Einstein said, he who aims at nothing always hits it, right? So you got to have a goal and you got to have plans. So part of our 5-year plan is to be at a place where we are engaging with people at mass, but we're getting to them one-on-one, which is the craziest thing, but that's why we do podcasting. That's why we do OTT. That's why at AudioDice Network, we are dedicated to grow our audience, but one at a time, with a 5-year goal, a 10-year goal, an exit strategy. All this other stuff you have to put in there so it can be a business. You have to do the little LLC or the incorporation. All that stuff has to be done.
What are your biggest accomplishments that you've made since you began as CEO?
Ooh, there's plenty. There's plenty. But I think the biggest is to have people participate in what you're offering. Mm-hmm. So the Latin Podcast Awards is the standard, the gold standard for AudioDice Network. Why? Because we really get engagement from the people. If there are no podcasters, no content creators, if they're not interested in what you're doing, it's not going to happen. There's a saying, you build it and they will come, right?
Who are your target audiences?
So we call that an avatar, right? So who's your avatar? And it takes a little bit to narrow it down. The more you narrow it down, the better off you are.
What are some upcoming events you have for your podcast and your radio station?
Well, radio station. We have in Montgomery, to the world, we have 2 digital radio stations. One is ADN Radio, and you can find that on adnradio.tv. You go there, and that is a type of music that's more Caribbean, salsa music, urban music, right? Then we have another radio station called La Ñ, which is the N with the little thing on top, right? And that N is for South and Central American, like ranchera Mexican music, and a little bit more of South American type, cumbia, some more that style of music, right? I separate them into 2 groups because they're totally different when it comes to the music, right? So when it comes to digital radio, we have these 2 radio stations, and we have a Christian radio station also. It's music, Christian music, and all in Spanish. We do this in Spanish out of Montgomery, Alabama. And what we do is we try to help the community, because even though you're doing all this work and it goes to the world, I can tell you, we have 64 different countries that come in, and you'll get a person here and there just listening to you because they speak Spanish, they find you on the internet, and they listen to this. But the truth be told is that these radio stations is a way of communications for our local citizens here in Montgomery, right? So we put out information about COVID when it first started. We put out information about the census when the census was coming around. We put out local information of happening things within the city that they would never know to go and participate of. An example would be, we did, actually I was the MC to the Montgomery tree lighting, the Montgomery City tree lighting down at the amphitheater, right? So Spanish people would never go there if no one in Spanish told them, hey, we're having a tree lighting and the Grinch is going to show up. So this is really cool. He's going to try to steal the tree, so are we going to see magic there? So we do these radio stations mainly, so we can help our people in Montgomery who speaks another language.
I did a little research on you, Mr. Felix, and I hear that you're an author.
Yes, this is how everything started about 13 years ago. I wrote a book called The Potential Millionaire. Tell people how to make their money reach the end of the month. Go to college or we graduate high school, we start working, and we get into this grind where we can never make enough money. I'm a business major and I want to study finances. And I didn't learn this in college, nor I didn't learn in school. I learned this on my own, and I came up with what I call 11 golden rules. These 11 golden rules are going to take you to at least, at minimum, being rich. At minimum. Why? Because these are the same rules that are used by Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, any movie star that has any common sense, that's made money, that has become an entrepreneur. Okay, they've used these type of rules. A lot of notes. I write a lot of notes, and you keep these notes. And if nowadays you don't even have to type with all this AI going on, artificial intelligence, you don't have to type. You can write a book. I just did a test on how to write a book without you writing it with AI, and I did it. And I was like, this is so cool. I wrote a book in about an hour.
Felix, it was great.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.